Tom Brady says today's NFL players are coddled, too soft, too distracted, too protected. Even more shocking, Hall of Famer Lawrence Taylor admits he couldn't even play in today's league without getting ejected.
Because if I was playing nowadays, I probably wouldn't last a game.
So what's really going on with the NFL today? Here's what the legends have to say. Tom Brady. Tom Brady, the 7-time Super Bowl champion who played for 23 seasons, has some thoughts about today's NFL players that might ruffle feathers. In a September 2025 appearance on Kevin Hart's Cold as Balls podcast, Brady declared that everyone is coddled a little bit more in the current football landscape. Brady spent over 2 decades under Bill Belichick's demanding regime, where relentless work ethic was non-negotiable. He accumulated more than 15,000 career passing attempts through unyielding preparation and obsessive dedication to his craft. But when Brady looks at today's NFL, he sees a different environment, one marked by load management programs, mental health days, and the constant pull of social media pressures. While modern players have more opportunities to succeed, they also face more distractions, like endorsement deals and instant fame that can erode their focus on football. Brady pointed out in a 2023 interview that he believes there's too much mediocrity in today's NFL product, suggesting that rule changes designed to protect players have inadvertently fostered bad habits in performance. He's suggesting that the very safety nets designed to help players might actually be making them weaker, less prepared, and more prone to failure. The implications are significant in 2025's NFL landscape, with salaries soaring higher than ever and coaches increasingly opting for gentler coaching styles. Brady's view implies that while player welfare initiatives are protective and well-intentioned, they may foster a culture of complacency that could potentially inflate bust rates among high-profile draft picks, particularly in recent quarterback classes. The irony is notable. Brady himself benefited enormously from rule changes like the Brady Rule that came into effect after his devastating 2008 ACL injury, which prohibited defenders from lunging at a quarterback's legs. Yet even he recognizes there's a fine line between necessary protection and excessive coddling that undermines the competitive spirit of the game. As Brady now serves in his broadcasting role with Fox Sports, his words carry tremendous weight throughout the football world. Marshall Faulk. Hall of Fame running back Marshall Faulk, a key figure in the St. Louis Rams' legendary Greatest Show on Turf offense, has become increasingly vocal about how modern rule changes have rendered the game fundamentally unfair to defenses. In a June 2025 interview on 106.7 The Fan, Faulk stated, "I really don't know how you're supposed to play defense in today's NFL." He pointed to glaring inconsistencies where pocket passers draw flags for minimal contact, while mobile quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes escape penalties for riskier plays. According to Faulk, offensive players can now navigate the middle of the field, like Bambi, without facing real repercussions, while defenders bear the brunt of fines for any contact deemed excessive. Faulk contrasted today's environment with the brutal full-contact training camps of his era, complete with exhausting 2-a-day practices and live tackling drills. He's particularly frustrated by overly interpretive officiating on helmet-to-helmet hits, even when receivers duck into the contact themselves. Faulk contends this imbalance stems from a lack of accountability for offensive coordinators who deliberately scheme players into vulnerable positions. In his view, these offensive schemes are creating more dangerous plays overall, not fewer. When running backs are fined for trucking defensive backs, a tactic once celebrated as the epitome of power running, something has fundamentally shifted. Faulk's frustration is backed by numbers. The NFL's 2025 scoring averages are hovering near historic highs, with teams averaging approximately 23.3 points per game through Week 8. While these offensive fireworks thrill fans and drive television ratings, they come at the expense of defensive artistry and strategic complexity. It's particularly poignant to hear these concerns from Faulk, who voiced similar frustrations as far back as 2013, when he called a proposed rule change targeting helmet-leading runners a joke made by old guys, disconnected from the actual game. His evolution from explosive offensive weapon, he amassed 12,279 rushing yards and 6,278 receiving yards, to passionate defender of defensive balance, reveals how deeply he believes the game has tilted too far in one direction. Lawrence Taylor. Lawrence Taylor, the ferocious New York Giants pass rusher who redefined linebacker play in the 1980s, doesn't think he could play in today's league. In a December 2023 appearance on the Let's Go podcast with Tom Brady and Jim Gray, Taylor bluntly asserted that he probably wouldn't last the game in today's NFL due to rampant fining and ejection risks for the aggressive tactics that made him a legend. The two-time Super Bowl winner and 1986 NFL MVP explained that his signature hits, once celebrated as game-changing defensive plays, would now trigger immediate flags under current player safety protocols.
Because if I was playing nowadays, I probably wouldn't last a game.
This is a man who accumulated 132.5 career sacks and revolutionized the pass rushing linebacker position. He's acknowledging that the rules designed to enhance player longevity and reduce CTE risks, goals he doesn't necessarily disagree with, would stifle the very chaos and unpredictability that made legends like him transcendent. Taylor cited specific examples that frustrate him, like fines levied against running backs for trucking defensive backs, asking incredulously, "What the hell is trucking?" Running backs are being penalized for running over defenders, tactics that mirror his own aggressive approach when he would barrel through offensive linemen and truck receivers who dared cross his path. Taylor lamented the expansive protections now afforded to defenseless players, which would have penalized many of his most iconic plays. He quipped that if he tried to play his natural game in 2025, he'd likely be owing them money for missing games, or simply getting thrown out immediately for refusing to conform to a sanitized style of play. While injury rates have actually dipped slightly thanks to these rule modifications, and concussions hit a record low in the 2024 season, with 182 total reported cases, a 17% decrease from 2023, the league's emphasis on protecting offensive players has arguably homogenized defensive play, forcing modern defensive stars to navigate a much more calculated, less visceral style than what Taylor embodied. Harry Carson. Now we turn to one of the most powerful and sobering voices in this entire conversation, Hall of Fame linebacker Harry Carson. Carson, who played for the New York Giants from 1976 to 1988, has become one of the most vocal former players on the NFL's handling of concussions and chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE. In a 2013 PBS Frontline interview tied to the groundbreaking League of Denial documentary, Carson made a stunning admission when asked directly about whether his own children would play football.
If you had children who are 8, 10, and 12, would they play football?
8, 10, 12, no, they would not.
This is a Hall of Fame player saying he wouldn't let his own children play the game that made him famous. He extended his concerns to his actual family in 2016, revealing that he had banned his own grandson from playing football. "I've sort of made the decision, as the dictator of my family, that my grandson was not going to play football." Carson's concerns are rooted in devastating research.
By 2010, Dr. McKee had looked at the brains of 20 NFL players. She had found CTE in 19 of them.
That's a 95% rate of CTE among examined former players. The case of Owen Thomas was particularly significant.
Owen Thomas, to me, was a critical case. Here we have a 21-year-old who was a hard-hitting lineman from the age of 9 on.
And then, seemingly out of nowhere, he decided to take his own life. Had never been diagnosed with a concussion, never had a problem in the world.
Because he'd never had a diagnosed concussion, Dr. McKee suspected Thomas might have gotten CTE from the everyday subconcussive hits that are an inherent part of the game.
This is crucial to understanding Carson's position. It's not just the big hits that cause brain damage. It's the accumulation of seemingly minor impacts on every single play. Carson hasn't just criticized the game itself. He's taken direct aim at NFL leadership. In a scathing 2016 New York Daily News piece, he accused the league of clouding concussion science to protect profits. The NFL knew about these issues for decades, but they prioritized entertainment over health. Carson's activism extends far beyond media interviews. He testified before Congress in 2009 about player health issues and co-founded the Gridiron Greats Assistance Fund, an organization dedicated to helping retired players with medical costs that the NFL won't cover. Kyle Turley. Kyle Turley's story represents the darkest side of what happens when the NFL's culture of playing through pain collides with inadequate player welfare systems. Turley, an offensive tackle who played from 1998 to 2006 primarily for the New Orleans Saints, is now a leading voice on the NFL's dangerous over-reliance on pain management drugs, A first-round pick in 1998, Turley suffered what he estimates to be over 100 concussions during his career. Most were never documented or treated. In a 2023 interview, Turley explained that he estimates over 100 subconcussive hits, linking them directly to ongoing neurological issues, including severe memory loss, mood disorders, and cognitive decline. In a powerful 2018 Sports Illustrated feature, he described how he was prescribed a litany of medications for chronic back pain, which spiraled into full-blown addiction and suicidal ideation. I was numb, physically and emotionally. The NFL handed out pills like candy, and now over 1,000 former players are addicted. When Turley appeared on WNST radio to discuss the Gridiron Greats organization, his frustration was palpable.
Joe said that's one of the key things for them is to try and find some guys that are just getting out of the game within the last 4 or 5 years that are just starting to get out, and the guys like you, Michael Irvin, that they see the necessity for you to help take care of some of these players from the 70s and the 80s who are clearly having a difficult time.
His criticism of the players' union was scathing.
You know, my whole experience in playing the NFL like you guys, right, and what happens at the end of it, you know, and for all of us, is just a lineup of pill bottles, you know, dealing with all these injuries and all this pain and struggle, right? Cognitive stuff started happening to me. Teuton knows I dealt with it when I was playing, a lot of dizzy spells, things like that were occurring. Post-football career got worse. I've been talking about for over a decade now, you know, it was real. You know, saved my life, got me back to where I am today, and continuing to still spread this message and till it's over. You know, our goal is to get the NFL to just completely stop testing for cannabis, period.
Turley has become a passionate advocate for cannabis as a safer alternative to opioids. He credits CBD with saving his life, telling Forbes in a 2024 interview, "Cannabis saved me from Big Pharma's trap. The NFL's still pushing outdated treatments." In a 2025 YouTube interview with the Saints Nation podcast, Turley addressed modern safety measures. Today's NFL talks big on safety, but we're still slamming heads 70 times a game. The rules protect QBs, not the trenches. Nate Burleson. Wide receiver Nate Burleson, who thrived across 3 different teams during the 2000s and 2010s, brings a perspective that combines both the physical concerns about lost hitting and the deeply personal psychological struggles that come with leaving the game. Burleson has mourned the rarity of big hits that once electrified crowds, but he's also been remarkably candid about the emotional void that retirement creates. In a powerful and raw moment captured on video, Burleson opened up about what happened when he left football and how devastating that transition was for his mental health and sense of identity.
When I left the game, I didn't realize how much of a void it was until I was fully retired and I'm sitting back at the house, drinking my ass off, watching old highlights of myself. And then I reach out to like a couple of my coaches that are on different staffs. I say, hey, you guys got some injuries, man. You know, I'm still here. It was like 6 months out of like me not playing. I haven't officially retired yet. And his response was, nah, man, we good. But tell the family I said what's up.
His description of how he interpreted that rejection is absolutely heartbreaking and reveals the deeply emotional relationship players have with football.
And I know he didn't mean it that way, but how I read it was like, stop texting me. I told you I found somebody else, and I'm happy. Because I've always looked at the game as this woman. And that was the moment where I realized, like, not only is she done with me, she moved on. That's when I knew, like, damn, this void is there.
Beyond these deeply personal struggles, Burleson has also spoken about how the game itself has changed during the CBS Detroit feature. He vividly recalled his rookie year experience and the genuine paranoia he felt about crossing the middle of the field, fearing devastating helmet-to-helmet launches from safeties and linebackers. But players simply shook these hits off and kept playing. There was an expectation of toughness, a culture of resilience that defined the position. Burleson attributed the shift partially to evolving fan preferences for what he called fast break football, and highlight reel offensive plays over grinding defensive battles. But he warned that this preference fosters a culture where relatively minor injuries halt play and become major storylines, where players are celebrated more for avoiding contact than for powering through it. His career included over 5,000 receiving yards, accumulated while constantly putting his body at serious risk, crossing those dangerous middle routes. The courage required to make those catches, knowing the punishment that awaited, defined what it meant to be a receiver in his era in a way that modern rules have largely eliminated. Jerry Rice. When Jerry Rice speaks about football, people listen. As the NFL's all-time leading receiver with records that may never be broken, Rice played from 1985 to 2004, mostly with the San Francisco 49ers, and he embodied a level of preparation and dedication that has become legendary. But when Rice looks at today's game, he sees something troubling, a fundamental erosion of the work ethic and mental toughness that he believes made his generation great.
I'm hearing you correctly. You're saying that the players today play the game like is that what you're saying, Jay? Are you saying
it's a softer game? Yes.
You're saying that these
players
guys
are more protected now. That's what I'm saying.
Well, guys, at this point, I think we have to sound our breaking news alarm. You heard it here first. The players today are pansies. They are pansies.
Rice reiterated these concerns in a 2025 Athlon Sports reflection on his legendary 1995 season, where he made a bold prediction: durability is key. I doubt anyone breaks 2,000 yards because kids today aren't conditioned like we were. No one runs 4 miles post-practice anymore. Consider what Rice is really saying here. He's not just talking about physical conditioning, but about a mindset of pushing beyond what's comfortable, of doing more than what's required. Rice famously missed only 10 games in his entire 20-season career, a durability record that seems almost impossible in today's injury-riddled NFL landscape. In a 2021 CBS Sports interview, Rice acknowledged some positive aspects of rule changes, noting things like RPOs that create more scoring opportunities. But he expressed frustration with overprotection. Receivers have more chances to score, but it feels scripted. In my day, you earned every yard against Deion Sanders. That phrase, earned every yard, is crucial. Rice is lamenting a loss of the gladiatorial nature of football. Rice hasn't been afraid to call out specific modern players. In December 2024, he publicly blasted 49ers wide receiver Deebo Samuel after a critical dropped pass, stating, "No excuses, focus on the ball, not the spotlight." That's the cold hard truth. This wasn't just about one play. It was Rice expressing his broader concern that modern players are too distracted by fame and social media. Rice has also expressed concerns about the 49ers' 2025 offseason strategy, worrying that extensive roster changes might cause struggles, essentially arguing that continuity and experience can't be replaced by athletic potential alone. In a 2014 Bleacher Report interview, Rice articulated the fundamental difference between eras. "I gave 100% always. Today's stars rest too much." When asked what it took to become the greatest, his answer was simple but profound. Work ethic and always giving 100%. Didn't want to leave anything on the field. Interestingly, Rice has claimed he could potentially double his statistics in today's NFL due to more favorable rules. But he emphasizes this would only be possible if he brought his era's mental toughness and work ethic, implying current players, despite having more advantageous conditions, aren't maximizing their potential because they lack that old school mentality. Dominic Raiola. Former Detroit Lions center Dominic Raiola spent 14 seasons battling in the trenches and has become one of the most vocal critics of the NFL's excessive fining culture that's fundamentally changing how the game can be played. In a 2013 CBS Detroit feature titled "Is the NFL Getting Too Soft?", Raiola didn't hold back. He viewed the NFL's escalating fining system as turning football's inherent violence ridiculous and essentially unplayable, with penalties now targeting not just illegal blocks, but hitting somebody too hard. Raiola recalled receiving modest fines in the early 2000s for leg whips that pale compared to today's defenseless player crackdowns. He argued that modern players must adjust the way you play football, constantly second-guessing their natural reactions at full speed, which directly contradicts football's reactive, instinctual nature. He's describing offensive linemen who've spent their lives learning to finish blocks with aggression and power, suddenly having to pull up and hesitate mid-play because they're worried about crossing some invisible line that might result in a massive fine or penalty. This hesitation changes the entire dynamic of how football is played in the trenches. Raiola posited that this evolution stems directly from the wave of concussion lawsuits that rocked the NFL and forced the league to take dramatic action to protect itself legally. But he argues that in their rush to address these concerns, the NFL has gone too far, risking the sanitization of the trench's raw essence, where his career's pancake blocks were once worn as badges of honor. In the 2025 context, Raiola's decade-old critique resonates even more strongly amid rising offensive line penalties, suggesting the league's safety initiatives have inadvertently favored pass-heavy schemes while pressuring linemen to evolve from maulers into technicians. Rashian Mathis. Jacksonville Jaguars. Cornerback Rashian Mathis, an 11-year veteran and shutdown artist who played primarily in the 2000s and early 2010s, offers a uniquely valuable perspective from the defensive backfield. As a cornerback with over 30 career interceptions, Mathis built his reputation on precision, instinct, and the ability to make split-second decisions at full speed. But modern NFL rules have fundamentally compromised that instinctive style of play. Mathis lamented having to second-guess his decisions when defending outstretched receivers, explaining that this hesitation occurs at the speed that we're playing, a speed that makes thoughtful deliberation essentially impossible. This is a far cry from his early league days when launching through contested catches to jar the ball loose was not just acceptable but considered exemplary defensive play, and defenders could do so without constant fear of career-altering penalties or ejections. Mathis described how once routine jams on jump ball routes, physical plays where cornerbacks would arrive simultaneously with the receiver and fight for position, now risk massive fines or even ejections if the contact is deemed too aggressive or if the defender's helmet makes contact in the wrong place. His 30-plus interceptions underscore his precision and instinctive playmaking ability, skills that were honed in an environment where defenders could be genuinely aggressive without constant fear of flags. Matt Forte, Chicago Bears running back. Matt Forte, a 2010s workhorse with over 9,000 rushing yards, brings a critical perspective to this discussion. Forte balanced his support for injury prevention with genuine frustration over how safety restrictions contradict fundamental aspects of football and ultimately mess up the game, despite their protective intent. In remarks made during the 2013 discussions that echo into 2025's ongoing debates, Forte contended that safety-driven rules are becoming an issue because they contradict both offensive and defensive fundamentals players have practiced since childhood. His concern wasn't the protective intent. He explicitly supported that, but rather the confusing implementation that made it unclear how to execute basic football techniques. Forte described impossible scenarios: defenders shedding blocks while worrying about hand placement, runners powering through tackles while conscious of shoulder positioning, offensive linemen finishing blocks without crossing invisible lines of excessive force. These contradictions hinder natural play flows and turn football into a bureaucratic exercise in rule compliance. Drawing from his dual-threat career as both rusher and receiver, Forte showed how these changes particularly burden versatile backs who must run between tackles, catch passes, and block blitzers. When rules governing each role become contradictory, players must choose between playing naturally and playing safely within the rules. Forte's critique focused on the NFL's piecemeal approach to reforms. Rather than developing a comprehensive philosophy, the league has introduced rule changes incrementally, lowered helmet hit thresholds here, expanded defenseless player protections there, creating a patchwork of regulations that often conflict and leave players confused about what's legal. This contributes to the 2025 narrative of flag football complaints from coaches who watch players get penalized for what appears to be textbook execution. David Akers. Let's move on to the veteran kicker David Akers, whose viewpoint offers perhaps the most measured and philosophical take on these issues. Akers, whose 44 field goals in 2011 set a single-season record that stood for years, brings 2 decades of professional experience and a unique vantage point from special teams, a phase of the game often overlooked in these discussions, but critically affected by rule changes. Akers warned that excessive rule tweaks risk tarnishing the NFL's fantastic product, using a particularly apt metaphor. He compared the league's situation to over-polishing a golden goose until its luster completely fades. His point was subtle but important. The NFL has built something extraordinarily valuable, a sport that captures American attention like nothing else, and there's genuine risk in tinkering with it too much, even with the best intentions. While Akers explicitly praised the league's sustained fan engagement and commercial success, he cautioned that safety overhauls, if taken too crazy, could erode the sport's visceral appeal that drew billions in viewership. This wasn't a call to ignore player safety, far from it. Rather, it was a plea for balance, for thoughtful consideration of how changes affect not just injury rates, but the fundamental nature of the sport that fans love. From his 20-year vantage point that included dealing with brutal crosswinds, icy conditions, and the immense pressure of game-winning kicks without the benefit of modern technological aids and training methods, Akers had a unique appreciation for both tradition and progress. He implied that the league's innovations, like the massive expansion of instant replay, increased use of technology in officiating, and constant rule modifications, benefit certain players and phases of the game, but may dilute the raw, dramatic tension of on-field competition that makes football compelling in the first place. Deion Sanders. Finally, we come to Deion Sanders, primetime himself, the shutdown cornerback who played from 1989 to 2005 and is now the head coach at Colorado. Sanders brings a unique perspective because he's actively coaching young players, while his sons, Shedeur and Shiloh, now play for the Cleveland Browns. Sanders' primary concern centers on financial entitlement that makes modern NFL players nearly impossible to motivate. He's been brutally honest about why he won't coach in the NFL. "I have a problem with men getting their checks and not doing their jobs. I would be too tough as a coach in the NFL because I still have those old school attributes. When players are financially set for life before proving anything, it fundamentally changes their relationship to coaching and accountability." But Sanders' critique goes deeper than motivation. In a September 2025 appearance on the New Heights podcast, he exposed a systematic failure. The NFL doesn't develop players. They won't teach you when you get in the league, but I'm going to teach you. The league expects rookies to arrive pro-ready without investing in their growth, placing the entire burden on college programs. Sanders has emphasized that only 0.41% of college players make NFL rosters, with careers averaging just 3.3 years, yet the league refuses to help them succeed. Sanders has also criticized the physical softening of the game. It's gotten a little soft. The NFL is protecting offenses and QBs more so than defenses. In February 2023, he even blasted the Hall of Fame itself. "We've gotten soft, and haters are involved." Sanders has fiercely defended his sons entering the NFL. When anonymous scouts criticized Shedeur's professionalism, Sanders fired back, laughable. "Just say you don't like me." When Shedeur gave a confident interview with the Browns, Deion responded with pride. "Good one, son. You did that." Sanders has been explicit about his preference for college coaching. "I just have no desire to coach rich men. I'd rather have an impact on young men in need." At Colorado, he's assembled a coaching staff with 204 years of combined NFL experience, specifically to over-prepare players for a league that won't develop them. His advice to his sons encapsulates his philosophy. Give your all to carve out lasting careers. In Sanders' eyes, the modern NFL won't teach you, won't develop you, and won't hold you accountable unless you bring those qualities yourself. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.